Hey and welcome back to Neverwinter with Aragon. This will be part 2 where I explain all the mechanics within phase 2 of the Zariel's challenge. If you're unfamiliar to the mechanics overall in Zariel and haven't watched the part 1, I highly recommend you go ahead and do so you can familiarize yourself to phase 1 of the trial itself. If you do not complete the mechanics successfully in phase 1, you'll end up with a whole load of skulls or even be completely dead before you even get to phase 2. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Once Zariel hits 60% of her HP, she will teleport off the platform. Then she will do a lunge mechanic, that being the Great Divide, and thus begins phase 2. With this phase, it's basically a DPS check with 2 mini-bosses. At first, Zariel will crouch down on one knee and face the entrance to the platform, which we entered through, and then her evil side, Evil Zariel, will spawn hovering above her. Both will be untargetable within this transition. Then, after a period of time, it's about 12 seconds or so, 2 devils will appear, or these shades, Shade of Fire and Shade of Ice. They'll be very easy to spot due to one will be red and one will be blue. And they will spawn basically flanking the exit, one in both of these locations. And they'll just be there within the second ring. So, with knowing where they will always spawn, you can already have yourself set up in position, one tank in each spot, and the DPS behind one of the shades. Normally we kill the red shade first, and so you just have all the DPS behind the red shade, and you have the tank on that shade, the one that can hold the aggro best. Now every time the shades hit a target, they will spawn a ball of despair. This ball of despair will spawn on the outside ring of the arena and slowly make its way to the middle. For every ball which reaches the middle, Zariel will lose hope. So you must kill these 2 devils before Zariel's hope is lost, or her evil side will take over and basically just nuke everybody. Now these dark orbs of despair can be absorbed by a player when you basically enter its hitbox or you move into it. However, every time you take one of these balls, you will receive a vulnerability debuff per ball. Now normally at about 500k HP, you can take 2 balls, having 2 of the stacks. After 10 seconds, all of your stacks will expire, and then you can go ahead and take more of the balls. In the easy version, this isn't so important, but in the master version, this is vital to make sure you pass this DPS check, so you give yourself enough time. Even if you manage to catch all of those balls and let none of them in the middle, Zariel's hope will still drain down over time. I believe you have just over 2 minutes for this entire phase. Now with the mechanics of both the shades, the devils will have a main at-will attack, being essentially their cleave, which is a large AoE swing. It's a really large arc, so you really have to make sure you're aware of it and you move accordingly, and just make sure you're behind the boss if you're not the tank tanking that shade. Now after these shades strike you for about 8 times, they will do a Firebreaker or Icebreaker, this being their tank buster. Now once you're hit by this tank buster, you receive essentially a debuff called Killing, whether it's the ice killing or the fire killing. That depends on which tank buster you got hit by. Let's say you have the ice killing debuff. That means that the blue shade, when he next hits you with his at-will, he will do about 4 times the amount of damage. This is vital in the master version to get right, or you will just die to that shade's at-will. So the way to work around this is, as soon as the tanks are hit by the tank busters, they need to switch aggro. So it's vital those tanks save their hard taunts for that point. After you're hit by the tank buster, you move to the other shade, you hard taunt them, and you make sure those shades are far enough apart so you won't get clipped or hit by the other shades at wills. Normally, as soon as you've hard taunted that shade, you need to move beyond and around the shade so that you're far enough away from the other one. Sometimes, I know it can be very annoying, the tank busters will get offset, so one of the shades will do their tank buster, and about a second or two later, the other shade will do its tank buster. If this happens, you might end up, one of the tanks will get clipped and died because you won't be able to switch fast enough and move away quick enough. However, you just need to react quicker and you should be okay. Now, the easiest way to time when the shades are going to do their tank buster so you can prepare yourself as the tank is this. Initially, after 8 at-will strikes, they do the tank buster. After this, it's exactly 18 seconds before they do next tank buster. So to time this 18 seconds, I generally use, as a paladin tank, my absolution just before I get hit by the first tank buster, and by the time the second tank buster comes around, I will have my absolution again, I use it, and then I'm gonna get hit by the tank buster. And you can time it that way. Because my absolution is 21 seconds, it's about 3 seconds for the switch to happen, and thus it being 8 seconds until the next tank buster, and I can just cast it and get hit by the tank buster. You need to make sure you're fully prepared for it. However, in the easy mode again, you should be able to just tank it real easily. In the master version, if you don't have yourself set up, you can really easily die from those tank busters. So this has been my explanation and guide for phase 2 of the Zariel challenge. Hopefully this is somewhat helpful, especially for those of you tanks out there wishing to tank this trial. It can be very challenging to begin with, and especially getting groups together to have the patience to help you learn. I know for myself especially, it took some time learning those mechanics in phase 2 and getting all that timing right. Anyway, if you like how I presented this here, consider leaving the video a like, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.